In February, we had a Remember When discussion. This month, the topic of discussion was supposed to be date night, but we kind of grew more into what do we do for fun. The first thing that was mentioned was hanging with friends, cruising. Some would drive up and down Main Street, while others would sit at strategic locations, and it sounds like the favorite place to sit was on the wall beside the drugstore on 339. Some others would just drive the back roads of the area. Having fun at a friend's house was mentioned. Sharing a common interest was talked about. Hanging out and fixing cars. Going hunting for whatever was in season. Fishing and hanging out on the water. Going on bike rides or walks. Off-roading. Square dances and tractor pulls. Going to school entertainment was mentioned. This could have been a sporting event. Beverly Schools and later Fort Fry and Wolf Creek have always had many sporting events. Going to plays is a long-standing tradition in Beverly. Going to church functions, be it a revival, a social, or a community meal. The various organizations in town have been really good about keeping us entertained. The Legion has the chili cook-off and their wild game feed every year. The Eagles have been having jam sessions. The Masons have their monthly soup lunch. There used to be an organization called the Cobras that would have dances. Many businesses have contributed to the entertainment of the Beverly people. One of the locations that we talked about was the Dixon Movie Theater. It was a rather small building on Lyons Way. Otis Dixon built the movie theater in the early 1940s. He later sold it to Paul King in 1956. It was in operation until the late 1970s. At that time, it became storage, and at one time, it caught on fire and was later torn down. It is now a parking lot. In the Reflections, which is the newsletter for the Lower Muskingum Historical Society, they did a piece about Paul and Evelyn King, and in there it talked about the Dixon Theater when they bought it. Paul and Evelyn worked hard to freshen up the Dixon. Paul painted the interior, and Evelyn made new curtains for the doors leading into the main part of the theater. Paul ordered the movies through a booking agent in Cincinnati, Ohio. He also learned how to operate the projectors. Evelyn learned how to purchase, or where to purchase, the best popcorn and concessions. When the theater opened, Evelyn sold the tickets and the concessions. Pop was 10 cents. Popcorn was also 10 cents. And admission was 25 cents. Those were the days. Another place that many enjoyed was the roller rink. It is a brick building at the end of town going south on 60. Roy Skinner built it, and its original name was the Beverly Skateland. It still stands, but is now used as storage for Skinner Firestone. People enjoyed skating. It sounds like everybody who was anybody owned their own roller skates. When they stopped using it for a roller rink, it became a dance hall. The third place that was mentioned was the Island. The Island was a restaurant with a bar and dance hall. To get to the island, you would walk across a small bridge across the canal. People have many fond memories of the island, but it was lost to a fire in the late 60s. Today, there is a movement to try to revive the island. The last place that was mentioned was the Oddfellows building. Now, I'm going to call it that because there are many names to this building, but it was originally built by the Independent Order of Oddfellows. It was built in the late 1880s. For our purposes now, we're only going to talk about the second floor. There is an opera house there, complete with an orchestra pit. The first moving picture was shown there in 1914. They had their own orchestra that would play along to the movies and plays. Today, it is the above floor of the Cornerstone Inn, and they do continue entertaining us with musicians. So now to get an idea of what entertainment was in before times, also in the Reflections, was this article written called Recreation. Although the written record on recreational interests and activities during early days in the area is scanty, it does indicate that life was not all work and no play. As early as 1794, April 7th was regularly celebrated by the associations with games, foot races, and other masculine sports. The ladies participated in dancing. Homes were open for enjoying fellowship. By the 1850s, much of the community life was interwoven with church activities. The circuits preachers with local preachers and laymen with their families sometimes all ate together, having as many as 40 guests in one residence. Banquets were often held at the Masonic Lodge facility. The Beverly Fair, held in McIntosh Grove, was attended by all. There were two organized bands, Beverly and Coal Run, for music at the fairs and elsewhere between 1850 and 1888. They gave open-air concerts. In 1860, the director was playing engagements with Bailey and Austin Circus in New England and a portion of Canada. Literaries and spelling bees were in vogue. Beverly High School had music festivals. The music teacher held recitals. Often after the festivals, a supper would be held and then a dance. Several old-timers played cards, Pedro, euchre, and 7-Up, to name a few. Some card parties included oyster suppers with all the trimmings. There was boating and canoeing in the summer and ice skating in the winter. And there was the Ferry Street hill coasting, sometimes from the top of the hill clear across the frozen river. Some people rode the interurban 15 miles downriver to Ferncliff, where the pavilion provided dancing, card playing, and etc. There was a lot of activities in the old opera house. Plays and operettes were given by both school children and adults. There was a hometown orchestra to provide music for the actors. Outside entertainment was sometimes brought into town. In the 1920s, included were DeGiero Concert Orchestra, the Filipino Players, Strickland Dillon, Bell Ringers, Clapella, and Ralph Parlett, Thomas Brooks Fletcher, and others. On the river, showboats presented troops with 10 Nights in a Bar Room, One Girl in 1,000, and other melodramas. And then came silent movies, eventually sound movies, sports in the schools, and then radio. Recreation was more centered around the home. There were still some fairs and picnics, such as the Watertown Picnic, held at Bingham Grove each year. This was really a homecoming and good place to renew old acquaintances. The Beverly Picnic tried to revive this one. And then there was a carnival and circuses. In 1905 or 1906 and 1929 to 1931, Beverly had a professional baseball team. Then there was the boating and fishing. Some early boaters cruised as far as Lowell. The land for Dodge Park was donated by Beverly's founders. It has become a focal point of recreation over the years. The large Beverly School Grounds and Waterford School Grounds are also used for recreation. The Beverly Library is excellent for a small town and is used extensively by the students and citizens alike. The roller skating rink was in operation at one time. An artificial lake has been constructed 2 miles south of Beverly. It was stocked with bluegill and largemouth bass. All right, so our next Remember When will be March 25th at 9 o'clock at the Cornerstone Inn. And at that one, we will be discussing food and local restaurants.